Kids were always my favourite. Yeah. Awesome. Wow, we've got a good coverage from all over the place. Love helping kids find that one book. Yeah. What do you love about your job, Claire?
Oh, so much. I love being given money to buy books. That's one of the best things. And then finding the perfect book for that child who goes, no, I don't like reading, and then getting them hooked. It's very cool.
Yeah, those little light bulb moments. Fabulous. Okay, so we're starting to slow down, but please feel free to add your name there as we're going through, just so we know who we're talking to. So before we do get underway, we just really want to acknowledge that we are working in some really challenging times, and it's been 2 years to the day since we first got that lockdown announcement in 2020. So we really do have to be mindful of that. And COVID has created a lot of challenges for both you, for the tamariki and rangatahi that you work with, for our communities. There's no one it hasn't affected. But it's also highlighted some of those challenges and uncertainties in our employment situations. And particularly when you work in a system that hasn't been keeping pace. We know that the last 2 years has really brought that to the fore. And for those of us who remember the introduction of Tomorrow's Schools back 30 odd years ago, I think we're now starting to see the real impacts of that. So this is why the pay equity work that we do is really crucial, because it's an opportunity for us to come together around a shared purpose and a shared vision, and to build on that and use COVID as an opportunity. It's a kind of, not really a reset, but just an opportunity to move forward on things and to make a difference and to build that future. So just for now that you've all stopped telling us who you are, I want you to think about pay equity. And in chat, if you can write one thing you know about pay equity. Sometimes takes a while. It's a female issue. Yeah. You don't have it. No, Tracy, you don't have it. And it's a long time coming. Yep, you need it. It's about fairness. Wow, you were all onto it. Yep, comparison between female and male dominated work, recognition, value. There's some common themes. It's about time. Keeping up with TA pay, yeah. Wow. You're all onto it. It's like our job here's done. We can just go. Yeah, fairness is a big thing that comes through. So you're right. Pay equity is it's a gender issue. It's about addressing the differences between males and females doing work of similar value. So it is a process, and we're really fortunate that we have the legislation in place to be able to take these processes. So I'm just going to get Kristen to bring up the next slide. Fabulous. Here's the process. Phase 1, the ministry agrees that there's grounds for a case. So that's fairly straightforward. We go in there and we say we've got a workforce here that's female dominated, and based on that has been underpaid and undervalued for a long time. And the ministry goes, yes, of course you do. It's really that simple. And then we go into the information gathering stage. And this is quite an interesting piece of work. And I'm going to get Claire to feed back on her part in that information gathering sort of phase, because it involved talking to an awful lot of people, wasn't it, Claire?
Indeed. So basically, and there'll be some of you here who have been interviewed or who have done some interviewing yourself, because I recognised a few. So what we did is we went out to school librarians all around the country. Some people we got to in person before COVID made it all happen and go online, and we interviewed school librarians and their supervisors, or someone in a supervisory role, so that we could get a really, really good picture of all of the skills that they have and all of the roles that they play within their school. And that isn't a quick process, because I keep saying to people, we have got this one chance to get this right, because it's taken this long to get here. Absolutely, I totally agree with you. It's not fair and it's taken too long, but we're doing it now and we need to do it properly. So it's not a once over lightly thing that we had to do. We had to interview enough people. All of that data had to be gathered. It all had to be quality assured. It had to be checked by the person who was being interviewed to make sure that we actually got it right. And so that's a big process in itself.
Yeah, an exciting process though.
Really interesting.
Yeah, it's because pay equity is evidence-based. We have to approach it with really robust information. And that was what that phase 2 information gathering was all about. Then we've put all that together to build a picture. And that picture is all about the skills, the demands, the level of responsibility, the qualification level of the people doing the work. So it's probably the best and most comprehensive piece of work into what school library staff are actually doing. And that's where we are at the moment. We've built that picture and it's all been gathered together in the General Areas of Responsibility document. And a little bit later on, we're going to talk to you about how you can be involved in that part of the process. The next part is finding those male-dominated comparators. And that's underway. We can't tell you who they are just yet, but that work is currently being done. When we look for male-dominated comparators, we have to find workforces out there that have a similar skill level, similar responsibility, similar demand. And it's not about what they do. Well, it is about what they do. It's not about who they are. It's about stripping all that back to the real fundamentals of it. Once we've done that, we'll put that together, and that does involve another round of interview processes. And if anyone out there is interested in becoming an interviewer, NZEI Te Riu Roa needs more pay equity interviewers. So you can either put your name in the chat there, or we're going to get Kate to put her email address in there, and maybe you could drop her a line and say that you're interested in doing it. Once we've interviewed those comparators and got that information, it will go through an assessment tool. And this is something that we've agreed to with the ministry. So we're all on board with this. And out the other end gets spat out pay rates and differences in terms and conditions. Whatever that looks like, we don't know just yet. And once that's done, we then go into that negotiation phase. Now, negotiation phase for pay equity is very different to collective agreements. It's not a case of we put claims on the table and the ministry puts their claims and we go head to head. It's because it's evidence-based. We go in with this evidence that we've built together collaboratively with the ministry, and we sit down and we work out the best way to implement that. So like Claire said, it's a one shot and you've done. At that point, we should come out the other side with a settlement that will come out to the entire workforce. And then you'll get your opportunity to look at it, consider it, and ratify it, and then it becomes reality. So we can't give you definite timelines on this, but just be assured that we are working through the process quite quickly. If you consider how long it took for teacher aides, it was 4 years from that phase 1 to phase 6. I think we agreed the case for the librarians it wasn't that long ago. I think we got that signed off about middle of last year.
Yep.
From memory. Yeah, so we are moving a lot quicker, and the legislation's changed to support us moving a little bit further. Liz, fabulous, thank you. January last year. I don't know where the last couple of years are gone. I barely know what day of the week it is, but thanks, Liz. Right, so we're going to get you doing something now. If you just have a think about the question that's on there. This is usually very easy for people to do, is think about the issues. So I'm just going to put a link to a Padlet in the chat, and then I'm going to bring the Padlet up on our screen. And I want you to think about what are the main issues you think need to be addressed for librarians. We used this PowerPoint for SciTex last night. So I am going to share my screen. And we're going to watch all of you putting your issues together. If you can get into the Padlet. Maybe while we do that, Claire can tell us some of the things she's got on top.
Well, I think basic school, well, I mean, we state the bleeding obvious, shall we? So obviously it's about being remunerated with what we deserve in accordance to our professional standing and our skills. So we are paid what we should be paid, but it's also about job security and about recognition of our professional standing within a school. What else can I think of? Long list of. Well, actually, it's about the existence of school librarians, because that in itself becomes a problem, because we know there are a lot more schools than there are school librarians, so, or libraries. So I'm sure pay equity can't necessarily solve that, but it's also a big part of it.
Yeah, that's more of a systemic issue. And a lot of the undervaluing and underpayment and everything of our school support staff in general is fed from that system, not keeping up. So we're working under a system that was created 30 odd years ago and trying to fit that into a 21st century environment. Kids aren't the same as they were back then. Staff certainly aren't the same. The needs are very different. Yeah, so we've got some things here around fair pay rates and budget cuts.
Yeah, so the Padlet link is in the chat.
Yes.
So you just need to go to the chat and click on it, and then you can get in, and then just click the little pink plus button and write whatever you want.
Yeah. Oh, yep, we've got PD. PD's one that comes up a lot, and during working hours that you're paid for. Absolutely. Yeah. That was something that came through quite clearly in the teacher aid and the administrators pieces of work that we've been doing is around. Oh, look, here they go. They're all in there now.
Cool.
Not enough time to do your work. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's about staffing. You know, do we have enough staff? People aren't aware of what you do. Oh, look, they're all coming in now. I love this. Comparison to what you can get paid. There's no such thing as a stupid question, Rachel. Too much work, too little time. Yeah. Qualifications. Lack of recognition from the BOT. Fixed term employment. Yeah. Okay, Rachel's question is about funding and where it will come from. So for those of you who have taken some interest in the TA pay equity settlement, will know that one of the outcomes from that was a review into the way that TAs were funded. And that review's been ongoing. We are expecting to have some sort of update on that fairly soon. And whatever happens there has a direct impact on all support staff, because it gives us a really good argument for, well, if you're going to fund TAs fairly, and the NZEI Te Riu Roa position is that there should be some sort of staffing entitlement kind of funding with that, instead of this bits and pieces ops grant funding where you're constantly fighting for the power and the toilet paper and things like that. But we can leverage off that to all other support staff. But that's not to say that that couldn't be an outcome from your pay equity settlement as well. Awesome. The expectation that you work outside your working hours, that's a common theme from support staff. And I often wonder whether it's because teachers are paid a salary and because teachers tend to be the largest group of staff within a school, although in some secondary schools, not necessarily. And they see everybody as being on a salary, where it's just not the thing. You can like other people's things. I see a few people have done that. Pressed on the little heart to say you agree with them. That's wonderful. No backup, yeah, relief. Because when you're not there, who's doing your work? Libraries and librarians should not come from the discretionary budget, absolutely. Because the work that you do is directly impacting the literacy levels of the students in your school. And we know, there was that report that came out earlier this week about literacy levels in schools. There is direct research to show that a well-staffed, well-resourced school library has an impact. Pay equity backdated for union members only. We don't know anything around backdating or anything like that because that comes out in the settlement. Pay equity is very different to collective agreements. When we take a pay equity claim, it's on behalf of a workforce. So it is for everybody. So anything that comes out of the settlement will be accessible to all people in the workforce. That's not to say that we don't need more members. And we will talk about why we need those very soon. Awesome. I'm going to leave that there and that will be left open for you. And we'll also share that with you so that you know what's been said there. Right. Whew, I'm just going to take a breath.
Well done.
Once people start getting there. Okay, so the next question, and we're going to get you put this in chat just to shake things up a little bit. Thank you, Kristen. I love my backroom team. So we've talked about the issues. We know what you want, what you want addressed. So I want you to think now about what are the outcomes? What would you like to see come out the other side of the pay equity settlement? You can put those in chat and we'll try and read really fast.
Yep. I would like to see every student in New Zealand having access to a school library with a dedicated school librarian who is recognised and paid for their skills.
Yeah.
Simple, really. That sounds simple. Let's do that.
Let's just do that tomorrow.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've got a lot here about being valued and being paid for what you're worth, having the hours to do your work. Lots of other things being considered library work. Yeah. Pay, profession is attractive and retains. Yeah. Retention and recruitment. You want working in a school library to be an aspiration, not, oh, mum's got nothing to do and I've got some skills, so I'm going to go there. Recognition of qualifications. Yep. No hours cut. You're recognised as staff. That's something that comes through quite a bit in these things, is people want to feel like they are part of the staff and not an extra. Remember when you used to be called ancillary staff?
That's been used in something recently as well. Yeah,
it's not a great word. Mandatory requirement from the MOE to have that schools have a library. Nice. Not just fair pay, but recognition of skills and qualifications. Yeah, valued not just us, but as a whole profession. Oh, you're still called ancillary staff. More hours. Yeah, although adequate IT. Yeah, there's a good one. And if that's one thing COVID's done, is it's showing how crucial it is that we have access to good quality IT systems and that we have people who know how to use these as well. Because I'm sure some of you, that's part of your job, is to upskill other staff, upskill students. Nice, paid all year round like teachers do. Yeah, so that's about that salarisation. You don't become a dumping ground for various other tasks. Yeah, paid for your skills. Nice work. Yeah, I like that one. The school community can become aware of it and younger librarians incentivised. Fabulous. It's good to know there's a crew out there that know what they want. So what we're kind of going to move into next is, I'm just going to give you a bit of a rundown of pay equity and the collective agreement, because there were a few things in there that I could see that, yes, we can address through pay equity, but there's some things that we progress through collective agreements. And you know that we've got the collective agreement bargaining going on at the moment, and we put some claims on the table and the negotiators have been in and out a few times, and we're about to hold paid union meetings for for members next week. So like I alluded to a little bit earlier, when we negotiate the collective agreement, it is very adversarial. And there is bargaining involved, because we will ask for something and the ministry will say that's impossible, but we'll give it to you if we take this off the table. And we could probably all think of an example of something that's changed in the collective agreement because we've had to let it go for something else. We're not going to name them because we'd be here a while. And for years and years, we've tried to change pay and conditions through collective agreement bargaining. But like I just said, because it's bargaining and it's give and take, we haven't been able to make that progress, which is why we still have these issues around undervaluation and low pay and job security and access to PLD, those sorts of things. So the things we raise through pay equity are very different. They're more changing the system. And so that's why we're using pay equity as the way forward for building that real future for support staff in general, and specifically librarians with this claim. And what we do is we use the collective agreement as the mechanism to make them a reality. So when we settle our pay equity claim, it goes out to the whole workforce, whether you're an NZEI Te Riu Roa member or not. And you get to decide, yes, I like this, or no, I don't like it. That's as far as it goes for you if you're not a member, because then it's up to all support staff members, that includes teacher aides, administrators, science techs, all those other people who work as support staff in schools, to then decide whether or not it goes into the collective agreement. And it's not until it goes into the collective agreement that it becomes a real thing. And that's when we go through the implementation phase. And it's through that implementation phase that we offer that support to our members to make sure that it goes through smoothly. And we know from experience with the teacher aides that it doesn't always do that. So they are two very completely different processes. It's just pay equity, we have a better opportunity to make real, sustainable, robust changes for the whole sector. So some of the things that came out of the teacher aid pay equity settlement was around the PLD and the ongoing work into the career pathways. And some of those themes that have come through there from you is around career pathways and professional development and being created as a profession. Agreement to work on fixed terms, so around your job security. That's quite complex because there's lots of underlying things with that. And for years and years, we've been in conversation with the ministry about, we think the driver of constant fixed terms and lack of job security is around funding. And they've gone, yeah, okay. And now through pay equity, we have the evidence that actually backs that up. So they have to sit up and listen. So the funding model is another thing that we address through that. I'm going to take a breath. And then we're going to move into the fun stuff about how you can get involved. So how do we get involved? One way you can do that, and I think from what Claire was telling me earlier, some of you have already had a sneaky peek look at this because it went live yesterday. Go back one, Kristen. Yeah. Yep, that one. So when Claire was talking to you earlier about that interview process, and we said we collated it, they all got collated into a document which is called the General Areas of Responsibility. We call them GARs because we love a good acronym in NZEI. It's quite a hefty document, and the work of librarians has come out fitting into these areas that are up on the screen. And I might just give you a minute to absorb that because you don't need to listen to me while you read. Oh, I'm glad you're impressed, Elwyn. It's always nice to see the work that you do written down because how many people get to do that? So these are just the headings within the GARs. Each heading breaks it down, and you've read it, haven't you, Claire? What's your impression of it?
Well, given these 26 pages worth of it, it's I can see that it covers the majority of what we do, but I can also see some gaps, and everybody will be doing something slightly differently, maybe, or adding something else because every school community is different. And that's who we That's who we work for. So it's hugely important that we add every single thing that we do in this list.
Yeah, absolutely, because it does set out the range and the scope of the work that's done by you. And it is